Minister, I don't understand or know why we're here today making statements on direct provision. I mean, what is this about? You scheduled this time slot for statements. Well, the Business Committee did, but it's government statement. The government opened up with a statement on direct provision, and we don't know whether you're saying anything or not. It appears there is nothing new being said. There are no decisions being made in relation to the future of direct provision. Look, Minister, every party in this House acknowledges, and they did so in their election manifesto, that the current system is simply not working. It's not acceptable. What is required urgently now is action from government. Not any more words. We require action, not words. Direct provision was only ever intended to be a short-term response, but it has since become a national disgrace, and I don't think there's any disagreement with that assessment. If the current system cannot provide decisions within the 6 months that were initially envisaged, then direct provision is simply not fit for purpose. Government must accept responsibility for that and must act. From the contributions we're hearing this morning, it's very clear that this is not a controversial view. Everybody is in agreement. We all want the government to act, but because the quality of life of those currently living in direct provision will in no way be improved by us making statements here this morning about its flaws. What we need is political action. While I believe we need a far more radical reform of our immigration system as a whole, for the time being, addressing the conditions for people currently held in direct provision must be the priority for government. The recommendations of the McMahon report contained a number of practical steps to improve the current system. And to her credit, the Minister for Justice has implemented the majority of these recommendations. However, it has to be said that some of those which have the greatest impact or potential for the greatest impact on quality of life remain outstanding. It goes without saying that basic resources like access to cooking facilities and private living space are absolutely fundamental to family life and well-being. The McMahon report recommended that this should be the norm in all centres by the end of 2016. Yet at this point, well into 2017, less than half of the accommodation centres currently under contract have some form of personal catering. Even at that, it would appear that the facilities on offer are far from consistent across the country. In the progress table the Minister released, the Reception and Integration Agency did not respond to the recommendation that all requests for tender should specify the requirement for self-contained units and family quarters. This is particularly troubling, I believe, given the highly flexible terms of the contracts made with the providers, and that requirement for basic family accommodation should have been a key element of the contracts awarded. According to the Controller and Auditor General, these contracts did not include measurable outputs. Instead, they merely state they must meet a standard which is reasonable having regard to the daily needs of asylum seekers. So it's far too vague in my view. These companies are commercial providers, and that must be borne in mind. We know that between 2011 and 2015, they were paid a total of €287 million, a vast amount of money. In the same period, 9 companies were each paid in excess of €10 million. It seems as though the only ones benefiting from direct provision are the companies running these centres. It is the nature of such companies to put their profit margins above the quality of their services which they are providing for the people in receipt of these services. If the government intends to continue with the privatisation of the care, then it must ensure greater oversight of these facilities and enforce a standard level of quality throughout the entire system. For far too long, the state has kept these facilities at arm's length, choosing to ignore that the people they are holding are part of our communities. Nor does the state's responsibility to them end when they are granted leave to remain. As of August of last year, 1 in 6 residents in direct provision had been granted refugee status, subsidiary protection or leave to remain, but had nowhere else to go. In our alternative budget, the Social Democrats proposed allocating a figure of €600,000 to provide a multidisciplinary team to support individuals and families to transition from direct provision, and we're still very strongly of that view. So in conclusion then, rather than sharing the kind words and moral outrage in relation to direct provision, what is needed from government is clear political action. Regardless of how or why someone comes to our country seeking asylum, failing to ensure they are afforded a basic level of dignity and respect betrays the very decency that is so fundamental to our national identity. We need action quickly, Minister. Thank you.